Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, brothers and sisters, and everyone listening on the World Wide Web and beyond. This is the Global Reality with your host, Josh Reeves.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Global Reality right here on the Global Reality Radio Network with me, your host, Josh Reeves. This is kind of a combo show because it's a little bit of a redo here. We had a show yesterday on Monday, but had a technical glitch right at the end of the show that caused, we've had this happen before, it sucks, that caused a loss of the recording of the show. I then spent all day today meticulously going through, cache files and stuff, and I thought I'd got it about pieced back together, and then there was something beyond fixing going on, so by the time I got to that point, it was, about time to do today's show, and I'm thinking, gosh, it's already Tuesday, going on Wednesday, and so I said, you know what, F it, we'll make this show the Monday, September 21st, 2015, and the Tuesday, September 22nd, 2015 edition of the show. That'll be a first. We've never done that. So here we go. Two editions rolled into one. Luckily, I still had all the stuff that I covered on yesterday's show available, so that's what I'm going to do. I'll read the stuff and go through the stuff that I covered on the show that you can't hear because it's lost, and we'll combine it with the stuff that was here today. It's one of those happy accidents. It kind of worked out because there actually wasn't very much material today when there was quite a bit yesterday, so having these two shows together just means that you get you get basically a makeup show. Get it all in one. So here you go. We're also kicking off our 8-year anniversary week. This is it. And, I have to say, I found it rather comical, still too, that the supposed end of humanity and end of the world that we hear prophesized every fucking 2 months is happening the week of our 8-year anniversary. So that's greatness. Bring it on. As I've said before, I'm not going to go on that rant again, but I easily could, because I can go on that rant easily because I strongly feel that way and believe that way for real. I hate repeating myself, so if you ever hear me repeat things more than once, it's only because I feel very strongly about it. Those are the only things I ever repeat. The things I really feel strongly about, and that's definitely one of them. Because again, bring it on. Tired of hearing this shit every other week, just like we're tired of hearing of wars and rumors of wars, as they say. And I mean, they've literally been telling us on television since like 1982 that next week we're going to bomb Iran. I mean, it's just the same old crap, and it's just there to, of course, keep people paralyzed by fear and keep them confused as to the situations that are really occurring. Give them these easy-to-digest tidbits of the truth, and that's enough for most people. So I have found that comical. But anyway, we're we're glad you could be here. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for listening wherever you're listening, how you're listening, whether it be on the stream or on an archive or on a YouTube video or whatever it may be. Thank you so much for listening. And thank you for being here. And thank you so much for being here with us. For 8 years now, we've gotten all this way the past 8 years because of all of you out there. That's amazing. So, yeah, this is it. We're celebrating 8 years since we've been 8 years on the air for the Global Reality this week. And this is it. This is the week that we've been waiting for. Because it's exciting to say that we have been doing this. I've seen so many people come and go. So many people, and I told those people, you can never pigeonhole yourself into any one subject. That's why I get into a variety of subjects. Of course, when you're making a film like I am now, that subject's going to dominate your focus for a period of time. But I'm always still researching other things. I mean, even though I'm working on the Spellcaster stuff right now, I'm still fully involved in the Lost Secrets of Ancient America stuff. And of course, the Secret Rite stuff as well. Because, as I've said before, always around the time when you start getting close to an election cycle, these CMP guys who remain quiet most of the time, this is really when you start to see them out and about, and you start hearing them talked about in the press, and you start hearing rumblings and talkings of meetings like they're going to have next month. But it always happens the most around the election cycles, and the reason that is because that's one of the main things they control. I mean, the Council for National Policy 100% was responsible for the George W. Bush administration. He was actually not doing well in the preliminaries, not really doing very well as a candidate. And he attended a Council for National Policy meeting in the year 2000 in San Antonio, where they vetted him and asked Georgie Boy questions, things like would he support, anti-abortion legislation, stuff like that. Apparently, he scored a very high score on the Council for National Policy's. They have like a rating that they give presidential candidates and whatnot. Very similar to the John Birch Society has the same thing, and of course, those groups are pretty much one and the same. A lot of people who are Birchers are also members of the Council for National Policy, vice versa. And so you start to see where when Bush was vetted by them and got high marks, that should tell you everything you need to know about that group. All of a sudden, literally overnight, with their vetting and their support and them choosing Bush as their go-to guy that they were going to support, they got him elected. And of course, they used their cronies in the Council for National Policy who were members, Ken Blackwell and others, to rig the elections in 2000, and that's how he won. So these guys are really, really involved in the election stuff and in stuff like rigging elections and whatnot. And that, of course, relates back to the CIA. And that's one of the things that I've found that I didn't really find when I first made those Secret Rite films, Volume 1 and Volume 2. And we talk about that Ken Blackwell connection and how, I mean, literally that information's out there. It's not a secret. We know the names of the people who were responsible for rigging that election, and they were coincidentally members of the Council for National Policy. And that's all in my 2009 film, The Secret Rite Volume 1. And so that's one of the things that I didn't really key in on. I didn't really realize and put it together as much in those films. I put it together now. I mean, if you watch them, you see that the basic information is there. But I didn't really realize until recently, because I've learned more about the Central Intelligence Agency and really how it works and a lot of the history of it during the making of the Spellcasters film than I have in some of my other films where that stuff was very much there. But this film specifically, because it's dealing so much with mind control, trauma-based mind control, and also with psychological operations being used against the general public on an almost constant basis through television, film, movies, all that stuff. Then that's one of the, and also Scientology ties into that completely, because that's what Scientology is, trauma-based mind control. And of course, there again explains why you'd have Hollywood people connected to it. All that stuff's going to be laid out in this film. And so in my research into the Central Intelligence Agency, I really realized that that's why the Council for National Policy is so secret. That's why they don't want their members, current members, being known, and why they make their membership list so secret. And why what they talk about and discuss in these meetings is so secret. It's because they are working directly with the Central Intelligence Agency, and that information is very much there when you look at it, especially when you look at things like, the Hunt oil family, who were involved in the assassination of Kennedy, and they were very much in bed with people like Dulles at the CIA and others who had come over from the OSS. Of course, Ron Hubbard was in the OSS. That's when he came up with Scientology, and said it was based on the work that he had done in infiltrating Crowley organizations for the OSS over in Britain. And so the reason I'm talking about this, the secret right information, is because it was 8 years ago this week when I first found out about this stuff. And it's always interesting to go back and see maybe what you didn't see or didn't catch the first time around. And that's very interesting for me to see, because I didn't really connect or feel like I had enough information to make this statement, but the information is absolutely there when you look at it. That explains why people have been, especially within, connections to the so-called truth movement, patriot movement, whatever it's called, and why such prominence among these type of people, from Jerome Corsi, who writes for WorldNet Daily. He's a Council for National Policy member, and he'll, if you go up and ask him, he'll gladly tell you he is. And then, of course, as I found out that first week of shows that I did back in September 2007, immediately started knowing Paul Craig Roberts. Oh gosh, I've heard him on the Alex Jones show a bunch of times. He's a member of this group. Jack McLam, that police officer, I always heard him on Alex Jones show. He's a member. And many, 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 many more, which I detail in all those films. But I guess what I've learned since then, and what really is important that isn't in those films so much, I think, is that, again, why this group is so feared, and why some people, it's very interesting. I found this through experience of talking to people who have been members of the group, people like Larry Pratt, Gun Owners of America. It's interesting that some people openly don't mind discussing themselves being members of the Council for National Policy, but then others get real offensive, real scared, or don't like it being brought up. And I always wondered about that back when I was making those films. It perplexed me. I couldn't figure out what the answer was. But I saw it happen time again. Again, for instance, Jerome Corsi. Dr. Michael Kaufman, who featured in Alex Jones' film Endgame, was the former president, the head chief, the head honcho of the Council for National Policy. I mean, don't you think that should be at least a slight red flag on Alex Jones if you're one of those people that doesn't see the forest for the trees as far as he's concerned? Shouldn't it be a slight red flag? Because he'll claim up and down all day he doesn't have anything to do with the group and he's not connected to him and whatnot, yet, I don't know. It seems to me a bit odd that you would have the former president of this group in your film. I mean, it's a little odd. But I went up to him, and he was really rude, just a total dickhead. I don't have time to talk to somebody like you. And got real defensive about the CMP stuff. But again, Jerome Corsi, he's just like, oh, yeah, I'm a member. Oh, hell yeah. Well, it's great. Well, And I think I was just so perplexed as to why that was, why there was such a big swing between people. Paul Craig Roberts is another one. He got flustered and lied and said one thing and said another and changed his. First, he said he wasn't a member and he'd never heard of the group. Then he changed his mind and said, well, yeah, I was a member. But how do you have my name? Because you just said a minute ago they don't make the membership lists public. That means you're a liar. He tried to turn around. No. We said that they don't make current membership lists available. Older ones, which there are voluminous and very easy to find, have Paul Craig Roberts' names all over them. He shut up really quick and got pissed, scared in his depends when we brought that up. And after, again, finding out more, doing more and more stuff, because this stuff really does tie in, especially with the connections I found with Scientology and the same type of, truth movement people, conspiracy people. That's why it's amazing that I've got a film that I'm working on. It's very close to being out on our 8-year anniversary, and it's awesome to see how it's just this big full circle. And I never thought that I would be further proving and further exposing and further solidifying the case I made during those Secret Right films with this completely, what I thought was going to be a completely unrelated film, The Spellcasters. And it really has. And that's one of the most important things I want to stress to everybody out there about doing your own research and becoming your own researcher and your own person in this stuff, and not just following people like myself and others to talk about, but becoming an actual researcher yourself, because those amazing synchronicities and things like that happen, and they verify that you're on the right track. And that's the biggest thing that revelations come from me, the process of making this film, is to realize that, wow, this is what I was on to. This is, this is Central Intelligence Agency stuff. Not only are these guys that are, in this Council for National Policy and associated with it, some of them are spooks and some of them aren't. And I think that explains the ones who get mad about it and the other ones that are just nonchalant and very open and, yeah, I'm a member. Yeah, we get together and we have a dinner and, my dues, I pay the dues every year, whatever the year, a few $1,000s. But the biggest thing about them is that since they're a tax-exempt organization, people can basically have money funneled into them from who knows what sources. So when I tell you that Alex Jones and others like him are doing nothing less than perpetrating trauma-based mind control and psychic warfare, really, psychological warfare, against the American people for the ends of the global power structure, it is not an opinion. It's not something being done out of a dislike or something for these people. It's a fact. I've been researching this topic now for 8 years, found out about the Council for National Policy. I got an email the other day, or a comment the other day. Someone said, well, I don't understand why would, this is kind of a comment that's really just based on not having all the facts. And that's okay. I'll set you straight. What the real thing boils down to, and I got sidetracked. Hold on a second. Back to my train of thought. Someone asked the question. I'm trying to think of exactly how they worded it. I'm just going to have to find that. I'm sitting here trying to think of it, and I'm just stalling, wasting time because I'm trying to think of exactly how they worded it. I'll look. It won't take long. I know right where it is. I think it was a YouTube comment or something like that anyway. Why would Peter Dale Scott go on the Alex Jones show if Alex Jones is a part of what he exposes? Well, number one, Peter Dale Scott never went on the Alex Jones show past the time when he went on my show in 2007, the first week I was on, 8 years ago this week. He never went on there again. Now, if you're referring to that clip that's in The Secret Right Volume 2, where I have Alex Jones talking about him having Peter Dale Scott on, he's flatline out of his teeth. I heard all the appearances he ever had Peter Dale Scott on there, and never did Peter Dale Scott ever go on there and talk anything about secret conservative groups or the Council for National Policy or anything on Alex Jones' show ever. Alex Jones said that, and it was a bold-faced lie. So that's the only thing I can think of this person is referring to with that question. Peter Dale Scott's not been on his show since 2007. All those were prior to that broadcast. But there's that audio clip that's in the Secret Volume 2 where Alex Jones is essentially, he's talking about me without saying my name. You can hear the stuff that he's saying because all that stuff about the Schlafly clip was me. Because that's him straight, bold-faced lying about that. Lying, saying they pulled that off somebody else's channel. This, that, and the other. So, Peter Dale Scott never indicated anything about Alex Jones being a part of anything that he exposed to me ever. So, you're connecting things there that I'm not connecting. So, that's not my fault. So, Peter Dale Scott merely told me, and there's that broadcast and stuff is out there. You can get it. You can hear it on our first 7 years, 50-hour MP3 collection that's up for sale in our download shop right now, too, for a very low price. And you can get that Peter Dale Scott clip in there. But we were talking about groups like the Trilateral Commission, Bilderberg Group. And Peter Dale Scott said, well, those groups, aren't really as powerful. The group that's really running the show and really more powerful is this group, the Council for National Policy, and they were started in Dallas. And that was kind of true and kind of not true. That kind of led me down some wrong trails for a while. They didn't start in Dallas, but of course, the Hunt Oil Brothers and so forth were involved in the creation of the group, and they lived in Dallas. And later on, I think they had their headquarters in Dallas for a period of time and then moved it somewhere else after that. And I think that had to do with LaHaye, Tim LaHaye, who looks like a pig demon. If you ever see a picture of that guy, he's a fucking pig demon. But, so the question, why would Peter Dale Scott go on the Alex Jones show if Alex Jones is part of what he exposes? Alex Jones isn't a part of anything Peter Dale Scott exposed. The only reason Peter Dale Scott ever went on the Alex Jones show originally and to begin with anyway is because he wrote a book about 9/11 that didn't talk about the official story of 9/11 and talked about there being more to the story than what we've been told. And that automatically led Alex Jones to think that he was a 9/11 truther. So Peter Dale Scott will do an interview with anybody. Obviously, he did an interview with me. I'd fucking done 2 shows under my belt, and I got him. So, but I used to listen to Alex Jones back then, so I know all that stuff when he was on there. I remember listening to those shows because I was kind of embarrassed for Alex Jones when I was listening to those shows because he kept talking to Peter Dale Scott like Peter Dale Scott's a conspiracy theorist, and he's not. He calls his research deep politics. That's the term. He doesn't like the term conspiracy theory. In fact, if you actually ask him, he'll tell you that he believes, 19 Arab hijackers with box cutters pulled off 9/11. Peter Dale Scott actually believes the official story. But he's, through his research and his books, talked about the fact that the U.S. government had prior knowledge of it happening. So he's talked about some stuff pertaining to the whole truth not being out about 9/11, but AJ obviously didn't do his homework or read his books before he had him on. So he had to find out all these things while he was on, and Peter Scott basically had to set him straight and say, well, look, Alex, I'm not in this, I don't consider myself in the same league as you. You know, you're a conspiracy theorist. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm into deep politics, you know, which is basically the study of the deeper elements where you find truths that the general public overlooks. I mean, it's really no different than what I do. So that question there is just a null and void question that's really just based on not having all the facts. Because Peter Scott has never connected or exposed anything that Alex Jones is a part of. Peter Scott doesn't even write books or make movies or do anything about, you know, he's on the Council for National Policy. He was strictly imparting a piece of, and that's why that piece of data on the Council for National Policy, that's why I took it so seriously when he told me about it, because that was the whole reason I was really, that week when I started my show, I was really amped up about it, because I felt like, you know, I had been doing research for a long time. I felt like I knew about a lot of things that nobody else knew about or was talking about, because I was listening to every kind of show I could get my hand on. And I was thinking, man, I should get a radio show and I'll, you know, bam, I'll blast all this stuff out. Dude, I blew my fucking load in the first month. Everything that I had researched all those years, I did in the first month of shows. But because I was falling down this current rabbit hole of the Council for National Policy, that gave me, you know, something to really base what I was doing off of. And it was difficult, man. It was the toughest time to talk about. It's easier to talk about this stuff now. It was not easy then. People didn't want to hear about that at all. But I, you know, knowing, if you know what you know about, you know, if you look into Peter Dale Scott, that's why my ears perked up, because, you know, here he is, and he brings up a group, this Council for National, that I'd never heard of. And he says, they're, you know, don't believe the hype. They're more powerful than any of these other groups, Bilderberg Group or any of them, but they don't. But nobody ever talks about them. So I knew coming from him, there was something serious and real about that. And it immediately, the first thing was, well, okay, well, how come, you know, how come nobody in the truth movement, conspiracy movement, is talking about this group? That was my first question. Because Peter Dale Scott's a deep political person. He's not a conspiracy theorist or someone who's trying to connect things where they aren't connected. His stuff is really, really backed up with hard evidence. So, that was my first question. Why aren't the other people in the truth movement or research community, why isn't nobody else looking into this group? And when I started to see the names of people who were regular guests on the Alex Jones show, I start my you know, I got that sick feeling in the pit of your stomach that you get. Because I felt like, oh, you know, oh my God. Because the worst thing for me at that time would have been for me to find out that this new, you know, movement or new thing that I was becoming a part of was just another trap set by the old paradigm to get you back into that old paradigm again. And I had a fucking breakdown when I realized that's what it was. I flipped out, screamed, I was yelling, jumping on the bed. I mean, I was just, you know, fucking convulsing on the floor. It really, it was a mind fuck. And so, even though I was finding all these facts and I was putting all this together, I was also a new Jack radio host who hadn't been on the air for a couple of weeks. So, you know, I was just sitting there thinking, how in the hell am I going to go on air after I mean, nobody knew me from Adam. Nobody had heard of me, knew anything about me, nothing at all. And here I come out of the clear blue fucking yonder nowhere, and I'm going to go on here and tell everybody straight out of the gates, this guy that's only been on air a week or two, I'm going to go on air and tell everybody that, hey, guess what, guys? I know you don't know me from Adam, and I've only been on air a week or two, and who the fuck am I? But guess what? You know how good you felt when you got away from the mainstream live consensus reality and you started getting involved with what you thought was a real grassroots movement to find truth and expose things like 9/11 and JFK and whatever else? Guess what, guys? It's all a part of that big thing you were trying to get away from. Yeah, that's right. They run it all, control it all. It's a direct tentacle of the power structure. I mean, that's what I did, folks. It was not easy. None of this has been easy. I mean, it's a goddamn miracle we've made it this far. Because it's been one constant uphill incline the entire time with no seeming downhill at all. Just work for no pay, for no money, for very little to even survive and make it through every month. You know, with nothing to show for it. It's just, but, you know, you do it because it's what needs to be done. So it's amazing to be here 8 years later and be close to releasing my 6th full-length film in 8 years, which I think is pretty good number. Most filmmakers don't release 6 films in 8 years, I'll tell you that. And you know, to be coming out with this thing that also verifies and updates and solidifies stuff that I was working on when I first started doing this show. So that's very cool and very awesome. And hopefully this new film will be a springboard towards us getting our Rockwall dig going and getting Lost Secrets of Ancient America Volume 3 done next year. But we can't do any of it without your help. That's just the fact of the matter. I wouldn't still be here if it wasn't for all of you out there. So I'm grateful for all of you and just thankful that everybody's continued to help get us along. We still need your help. We're not out of the woods. We with this being our 8-year anniversary this week, as I told you last week, this is the week I want everybody to concentrate their available war chests towards our 8-year anniversary fundraiser. Because we're trying to fund everything we need for the rest of the year. That way we don't have to have any fundraisers for the rest of the year for the radio show, and we can just concentrate on that and have shows where no fundraising is involved for a few months and see how that feels. But we have to have $900 minimum this month just to cover our operating costs. So, again, go hit up our 8-year anniversary fundraiser. The banner's on the right side of the page at my website, theglobalreality.com. And you can pick any amount you want, but there's also, if you under the thing that says donate now, there's some various prize packs in there. You can pick one of those. And help us reach our goal. We'd really like to reach 100% of our goal, but at minimum, we have to reach 900. And we'd like everybody to help us focus on that this week. We're going to have a lot of really good shows coming up for you this week. We're also going to have a special 8-year anniversary special show that'll be either Friday night or Saturday. And we may possibly be having an 8-year anniversary video edition as well. So keep up with all our stuff at our website, theglobalreality.com, and our Facebook page, the Global Reality Radio Network Facebook page. All that stuff is up there. But again, please go right now. Don't delay. Don't wait. Get your contribution in. Whoever contributes the most this month, of course, as everybody is going to get a mega prize pack. But this one this month for the 8-year anniversary is going to be even more mega. So The highest amount gets it. So everybody get in the running and please go contribute. You can also purchase things from our Etsy shop. We've got 20% off for our listeners this month with the coupon code Global Reality at checkout. You can find links to that up at our Global Reality Facebook page or by going to www.etsy.com/shop/let there be rocks. And again, those links are also found on our Facebook page as well. We've got all kinds of crystals, jewelry, crystal specimens, stuff you can get for investments for the future, all kinds of stuff up there. But definitely take advantage of this 20% off coupon while you can, because all our stuff is one of a kind, especially our jewelry. We get these pieces that we get, they're handmade. We get one of them in, and we probably won't get another one. We've got all kinds of cool stuff up there. We've got this one called the Atlantean Nephilim pendant. It's got Larimar and blue opals. It's just crazy. All kinds of cool stuff there. If everybody went and bought something from there, or bought multiple things from there, and bought stuff for your family for Christmas or whatnot, while you can get the 20% off deal. If we had that shop just cleaned out, if somebody just went to town in there, or everybody went to town and helped us clean that shop out this month, we wouldn't even have to worry about having fundraisers or covering the cost of the volume 2 of this Spellcaster series. Hell, we'd be able to cover it all with that. So please go there and help us out if you can for our 8-year anniversary. Let's get into the news. Oh, don't forget, $8 downloads as well of all my films, Lost Secrets of Ancient America, Volume 1 and 2, Secret Right, Volume 1 and 2, and 9/11 New World Rising in our download shop, which you can find links to right in the middle of the page at theglobalreality.com. $8 downloads until the end of the month. All my films there for that price. You can also get the new First 7 Years film collection in our download shop, as well as all the audiobooks, Atlantis and the Giants, Our Story of Atlantis. Oh, if you haven't heard those audiobooks, you got to get on it. All right, what do we got here? America's Stonehenge, New Hampshire rocks, history or hoax? Using the astronomical chart on a table in the covered tower, visitors aim their gaze along worn arrows to huge upright stones hundreds of feet away. Beyond each slab of granite, clearings stretch the eye to the horizon on a dazzling day in late summer New Hampshire. On Wednesday's autumnal equinox, people will flock to the woods near the Massachusetts state line and watch the sun rise or fall over the massive chunks of granite and decide for themselves whether they are standing amid relics of ancient history or pure hooey. This is America's Stonehenge, a weird 1-acre grouping of rock configurations named for the mysterious formation on England's Salisbury Plain. It has drawn believers who say it's 1,000 or more years old, and skeptics who say the evidence suggests it was the work of a 19th century shoemaker. For $12, visitors get to meander along well-trod footpaths through walls of stacked granite, some overtopped with slabs that weigh several tons to form cave-like enclosures like the Sun Deck Chamber or the V-Hut. Yeah, and I show this and talk about this at the beginning of Lost Secrets of Ancient America, Volume 1, I believe, because these rocks are definitely, there's a lot of similarities between this site and the rock wall. A lot of similarities between it. The spooky centerpiece is the oracle chamber, complete with what is billed as a secret bed and a speaking tube where words spoken from inside the chamber could be heard outside at the equally eerie sacrificial table. Owner Dennis Stone firmly believes the site, called Mystery Hill Caves, when it opened in 1958, is as much as 4,000 years old, the work of Native Americans or perhaps ancient Europeans who arrived millennia before Columbus. They actually did shaping to these. It's like shaping an arrowhead, Stone said in a rapid-fire voice, pointing to the giant slabs, stone against stone. So the technology used to take them off the bedrock and shape these stones was a Stone Age technology, not a Metal Age technology. Again, that's a dubious statement. There's no way to prove that. Just as there's no way to prove they didn't use, laser tools or whatnot to cut those stones. It's just like they claim that the Great Pyramids were built with that fucking stone ball and a chisel. And just because the tools that were used to build those sites is not found in the fossil record does not mean that some advanced design technology didn't go into this stuff. And I think that's such a fucked up viewpoint that we're led to believe. The science's viewpoint on any of these ancient sites is, well, there must be some plausible explanation. We can't believe that any ancient site on Earth would have been built with any advanced technology, because the fact of the matter is, if that technology existed and was used, we would find it buried somewhere. Why do you assume so? A lot of these sites were built for a reason, to withstand cataclysms. I mean, look at stuff like, was Alabi Tambo and Saxi One, all this, stuff in South America where there's been earthquakes that have wiped out everything. But these sites still remain unscathed because they were built with such an engineering precision and skill that they were built to be earthquake-proof thousands of years ago. These sites, like the Rockwall and many others, they were built to last. And the things that wiped out the civilizations that were responsible for these sites wiped away everything, including the tools that would have been made to construct these places. They wiped away just about everything except these sites. And of course, I believe from my research, that's because they were, trying to warn future people about cyclical cataclysms. Cataclysms that happen on a measurable length of time and happen in a cyclical nature. So I think that this New Hampshire site is definitely relates to these Amorites or these giants and whatnot that were here in the past. Oh, this is an interesting article. The Columbus Dispatch, we've covered several stories here. The Columbus Dispatch pretty regularly writes these articles about mounds and different things. And I swear a lot of this stuff, it's like a lot of these articles that this guy writes, Brandon T. Lepper, you guys have heard me read some of this guy's stuff before. He's a fucking peckerwood. There's been a few things this guy's written where it's just felt like he was really paying attention to my stuff. And I saw this article, and it's entitled Archaeology, Book About America's Discovery Gets It All Wrong. Numerous popular books and television programs claim that America was discovered by a variety of old world civilizations centuries before Columbus. So I'm going, oh, yeah, okay. And then I keep reading, oh, God, here we go. And this is a great example of these people who they associate with some of these topics in order to associate them with easily discreditable people. That's one of the favorite things they do. So they muddy the waters for anybody who comes along and tries to do legitimate research into these topics. I discovered that firsthand for myself while working on The Lost Secrets of Ancient America, Volume 1. because I was unaware that there were people who, I just thought everybody was researching these topics for, knowledge and for, to find out the truth or whatnot. But I didn't realize that there's a whole subsection of people who research. This was a real eye-opener for me to find this out. I guess not really that surprising, but really an eye-opener. There are a lot of people who have their own agendas who are researching the kind of stuff like I've been covering and researching in the Lost Secrets of Ancient America series. For instance, you have the obvious, Christian end of it, who are interested in finding, evidence of the giants, and then not because they feel that it justifies their existence, and that they would like nothing more than to find a giant skeleton, because they believe if they found a giant skeleton, or if the truth about the giants and all this stuff comes out, that would justify their existence as Christians and validate their lives as a believer in this particular faith. I am not, or never have been, or will I ever be, in that category. Then you have, this one was a shock to me, because I had exposed these type of people in my Lost Secrets of Ancient America work, but didn't really think or expect that I would run into these same type of people while doing the research and the work for the Lost Secrets of Ancient America. Prior to just a few months, I think, right before Lost Secrets of Ancient America came out, I read a book on my radio show that, and this is before America Unearthed and any of that stuff came out. And I had read this book, and I'd already had Lost Secrets of Ancient America before, but it had a very similar title to that, like The Lost Worlds of Ancient America or something. And I read this book because it had 2 chapters in it where they talked extensively about the rock wall. So I read this entire book on the show. And after I got done reading it, I got an email from someone, and they said, "Hey, Josh, why are you reading books on your show written by white nationalist pedophiles?" And I'm like, huh? What are you talking about? And it was the one time, me, I usually always look into everybody's information and what I'm looking at everybody's background. And I swear I do this every time. This was the one and only time that I didn't double check the material before I read it, and I got caught slipping. And this person was like, "Yeah, man, Frank Joseph, look into that guy. He's a fucking, white supremacist pedophile. He got caught, in a backseat of a car naked with 2 10-year-old boys or some shit like that." If you've ever seen the Blues Brothers, and you remember the Illinois Nazis, I hate Illinois Nazis. Remember the guy, the head of the Illinois Nazis in that? Drove the Pinot station wagon. That guy was a great actor. That character was based on Frank Joseph. And Frank Joseph is a self-hating Jew, and he researches topics like I research into the Lost Secrets of Ancient America and the ancient past and whatnot, because he is one of these other sects of people who research these type of things to validate and help back up the belief of the Aryans. And because the white supremacist neo-Nazi crowd believes that these giants and these Amorites and whatnot were the true Aryans that Hitler was looking for and whatnot. And based on my research, they're probably right about that, 100%. I can't really contest that. And I first kind of found out about that back in around 2008, 2009. because I was doing some research into some of the Sumerian stuff. And so when I was doing searches on Sumerian stuff, I kept finding all these links to like fucking Stormfront, all these neo-Nazi white supremacist sites, and they would have threads in their message boards. And I shit you not, man, it was a real shocking thing for me, because I was sitting there looking, going, fucking hey. I mean, these guys in these, white supremacist message boards were just, they knew everything about, the lineage of the Anunnaki and all of that stuff. 100%. And I'm sitting there going, wow, what the hell? I didn't expect that. Why am I getting all these links? And after I started reading them, I started understanding, oh, okay, so this is why Hitler had expeditions going out to Iran and, Mesopotamia and all over the world. Okay. So when the ancient Sumerian texts talk about the Anunnaki combining their own DNA with human DNA to create, of course, the hybrid race, they talk about how the first creature or first hybrid they created was the Mongoloid. And that this is where they used a little bit of their own DNA, and this is where Asiatic and Indian and all that stuff, all those that race came from. And then they used a little bit more, and they created the dark heads. That's what the translation is, dark heads. It's clearly blacks. And they did their experiments with them. That didn't, and then that became the black races or whatnot. And then they found a white-skinned people that were living in the Caucasus Mountains region in Russia and stuff. Whatnot. Well, I guess it's not necessarily. It stretches up through Russia. The Caucasus is the Caucasus, right? Yeah, the Caucasus. And that they used the largest amount of their DNA to create the full working hybrid. And because this white-skinned version had the largest amount of the Anunnaki DNA, this is why their children, their progeny, would go on to be the seeders of royal bloodlines that exist and continue to this day throughout the world. And when I was doing my Secret Right research, I was coming across these guys. There's some clips at the very end of the first Secret Right film about this. One of the things I kept coming across with some of these members is that they were talking about how some of these Council for National Policy guys were openly writing books and have openly written books about how blacks are genetically inferior to whites. So this is the point in time where, kind of just like it is now, my research always does this. I'll be researching one subject, but I'm researching something else at the same time as well. And it's crazy how you think that sometimes they will never overlap, and they do. So while I was working on the Secret Right stuff, I'm coming across this mention of these guys and members of the Council for National Policy writing these books. Blacks are genetically inferior to whites and whatnot. And then I'm also reading these ancient Sumerian texts, and here they are talking about the Anunnaki, and the Anunnaki giving their most amount of their DNA to the whiteskins, and those are the ones that are put in the position of demigods. These are the ones that would rule the kingdoms. And I, was researching bloodlines at that time too, so I was opening up that rabbit hole. And I started realizing, wait a second, okay, so this is why all the white supremacist guys are into this. But, by bringing this out and showing this to people, even though it's there in these ancient texts, you are automatically going to be considered a racist or a white supremacist or anything else if you start pointing to that being in these ancient texts. And so when I realized, when I saw what Frank Joseph was onto, that's when I realized, okay, so Frank Joseph is the guy who is basically, he's a Jew, but yet he's obviously a self-hating Jew because he's a white supremacist and he's anti-Jew. That seemed odd. But it's clear when you look at Frank Joseph that he's clearly a guy. He's got to be CIA. If the guy's not CIA, I'll kiss your ass. And of course, you know who he's big buddies with. Scott Walter, America Unearthed. And even though America Unearthed was not on yet, and even though they hadn't done their Rockwall whitewash yet, what I didn't realize is synchronistically that book that I read by Frank Joseph that had the Rockwall stuff also had 2 chapters in it that were written by none other than Mr. American Unearthed himself, Scott Walter. Now, this was a key thing. Everything happens for a reason. It was actually a good thing that I didn't do my homework that one time and look into Frank Joseph, because if I would have never read that book on my show. And if I would have never read that book on my show, I would have never realized once America Unearthed and Scott Walter pulled their whole bullshit, and he claimed on the show, I had never heard of the Rockwall till our viewers started telling us about it. Well, that's a lie. You wrote several chapters in a book where that information features prominently. Did you bother to just not read the book, or bother to see what else was in it, or bother to know what else was going to be put in it next to your information? That seems odd. So you're that comfortable with Frank Joseph and what he writes about that, you're okay with him putting his work side by side with your own, even though what he says is obviously with the agenda of, Nazism, white supremacism. I mean, Scott Walter was the guy that the federal government called on the day of 9/11 to come to the Pentagon and cook up the fiction they sold the American people there. This is a fact, folks, look it up. Who invented the fiction we were sold on 9/11 that happened at the Pentagon? Who did it? Scott Walter. You gonna believe anything that comes out of that fucking guy's mouth? And I'm not gonna lie to you, that show where he lied about the Rockwall, it hurt me. It hurt my work significantly. I didn't want to admit that it did, but it did. But everybody knows now it's a total lie. I mean, you can go see for yourself. We put up the fact of the matter is that whole test that they used to determine saying it was natural is based on bullshit, because he never told anybody what was in the wall itself. And that paleomagnetic dating they did is null and void because of the high crystal content of that wall that he didn't bother telling anybody about. So it's impossible. We have the geological report up for free in our download shop where you can see it for yourself. We also have a video about it on YouTube. We know beyond any shadow of a doubt, any material with that much quartz in it, quartz cannot be accurately paleomagnetic dated. It will always show the exact results that Scott Walter and America Unearthed got. Quartz will always show that if you attempt to paleomagnetic date it. Because they believe everybody out there is morons and idiots and doesn't know better, they didn't bother explaining that. So this article discusses Frank Joseph's book and essentially it really sounds like he's taking my work and work of others like myself and throwing it out with the bathwater because of Frank Joseph. And this is a classic thing they do. They associate some of these topics with absolute easy discreditable people. And then that negates the effect or the way that the information is taken seriously. In the current issue of the journal American Antiquity, Larry Zimmerman, an archaeologist from Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis, reviews one of those books, The Lost Colonies of Ancient America, a comprehensive guide to the pre-Columbian visitors who really discovered America, written by Frank Joseph. Joseph writes that there were pre-Columbian visits by Sumerians. And see, that's what I think is interesting. I found that by going across the country and going to different sites and going, it looks like there were, I didn't necessarily say Sumerians, but, possibly the Anunnaki. There's all kinds of Anunnaki symbology around this country. Joseph writes that there were pre-Columbian visits by Sumerians, Egyptians, Hebrews, Celts, and others. Oh, those were all the same people, bud. An apparently non-facetious blurb on the book's cover asks, who didn't discover America? He wrote that it was this cosmopolitan parade of visitors from the old world and not the indigenous cultures of America who created virtually all the wonders of this new world, from Ohio's Newark earthworks, which encode in their earthen walls a sophisticated knowledge of geometry and astronomy, to the monumental masonry of Machu Picchu. Why don't archaeologists take these claims seriously? Well, I can answer that because the person who's putting them out is a convicted pedophile, homosexual pedophile, white supremacist, neo-Nazi, and you can find that information in about 2 seconds online. And this is why the guy gets his books printed and gets them put in Barnes & Noble. But yet you can't get my films put in any of those stores. Why not? Well, because they can't associate me with white supremacy and pedophilia and the rest of that. So they're not interested in putting that stuff out, because they want to make sure that anybody they associate the real truth with can be easily discredited. That way nobody ever takes anything they put out, even if there might be evidence to back it up in spades. They never take it seriously. And I'm sick of these ass clowns muddying the water for people who are trying to do real research. But really, it's not their fault. It's the powers that be that do it. Joseph says that they cannot deviate from an academic party line without jeopardizing their professional careers, and so they accept only those facts that support mainstream opinion. The idea that archaeologists might ignore or even hide evidence that deviates from some academic party line would be laughable if it weren't so insulting. Really? See, the guy who writes these articles is an absolute moron. I want to know what universities he gets under the table funding from. Because let's break it down. Number one, he's basically saying right there that scientists and archaeologists would never hide evidence. Dude, you must have never heard of the Smithsonian Institute. That's what their job is to do. Yes, they've hidden evidence and they've destroyed evidence and kept stuff hidden from us. Of course. Anything that doesn't go right along with their established narrative, they are against. And the further you dig down deep enough into this earth, the more you find things that throw their narrative to the wind. And that's what they don't want. Anyway, I'm not going to bother reading the rest of this drivel. The fact of the matter is, they're basically just saying anybody that, this is the long and short of this article. If you question what mainstream science or archaeologist says about anything, you're a crank, a kook, an idiot, and if there were any truth to it, somebody in the scientific community would have already covered it. Thank you, the end. So that just goes to show you folks that my work and other people's work out there, it's having an impact. They're scared. They're now having to put out articles like this to try to preemptively, make a case to the general public that, now remember, boys and girls, if you ever hear any pesky people out there that may tell you something contrary to what you've been told by history or by mainstream archaeology or science, remember, it might be one of these Frank Joseph type guys. And remember, he molests boys in cars and is, a Nazi white supremacist. Doesn't matter if anybody else is or isn't. All that matters is that they create an association with those things and that information. And that's why I believe Frank Joseph is another one of these Central Intelligence Agency assets that's, put there to muddy the waters. Backpacker 24 dies in Peru after drinking hallucinogenic liquid and purging himself in ancient Amazon cleansing ceremony. Yeah, let me guess. He went to another fucking frat boy, graduated college, and decided on the day he graduated from college, he was going to go to South America and do an ayahuasca shaman ritual, right? Oh, God. What has made this? Is it the internet? It used to be nobody knew about this stuff. Now it's like, those things are not supposed to be done by everybody. They have, ayahuasca has DMT alkalis in it. It's basically like a herb and root version of DMT. But I mean, DMT is found on like 99% of everything on this planet. I mean, you can synthesize DMT from fucking Bermuda grass, for God's sakes. The shit's found in anything. What's interesting is to find what it's not found in, which is very difficult to do. But it's basically the white light juice, That's what I call it. It's the white light juice. That's what DMT is. It's secreted by your pineal gland at birth and death, and it's what facilitates the passage of the non-material part of you from one dimension to another. But the ayahuasca ceremony is a completely different thing. There are people who, they read Rick Strassman's book like I did when it came out, or, they've seen a YouTube video. So people are, they want to do DMT. And the only way that you can really do DMT and have a real experience from it is by being born, dying, or injecting pure human-grade dimethyltryptamine into your vein that is collected from the pineal glands of human cadavers. And that's exactly what Dr. Rick Strassman did with the first DEA-approved research into psychotropic substances in over 30 years. That's what his DMT research was all about. And like I said, you can synthesize a smokable form of DMT from grass and different things, but it's not like not like Strassman did to his. I mean, he injected these people with like 4 fucking milliliters of this shit. In some cases, it was a blind study, so the people would know what kind of dose they were getting beforehand. It'd be like between 1 and 4. But when you do a straight, direct, main vein injection of DMT, it is a full out-of-body experience. You are literally experiencing the realm of death while still being alive. And it only lasts about 15 minutes, but that 15 minutes to you can come back with have experienced literally years. It's like a time warp. And so people hear about DMT, they hear about Rick Strassman's study, and they get this thing in their head where when they read Rick Strassman's book, DMT, The Spirit Molecule, they read it and they think, well, if I find some dealer to sell me, because nowadays you can fucking find what people sell as DMT. It ain't DMT. People have been selling these stuff like TCP and these research chemicals and stuff for years, calling them DMT because it's crystallized form. It's not DMT. Not most of the time. You can do the smokable DMT stuff, but it's not. You don't really have the full DMT experience. And the same thing with the ayahuasca ceremony. But the ayahuasca ceremony is a different type of thing. Now, this is something that, yes, it does contain the DMT alkalis, but it's something that the medicine man and the shaman. Here's what's fascinating. This recipe that the ayahuasca shaman used has been around for thousands of years. No one knows where it came from or how it originally was just passed down to their people for thousands of years. But it's fascinating because in order to create the exact specific alkaloids that you need for ayahuasca with the DMT, you have to have these special certain roots, certain plants, and they have to be mixed together in a very specific way for it to have its effect. And really, you would need a pretty much a scientific knowledge. Somehow these indigenous fucking people out of the clear blue yonder, thousands of years ago, cooked up the white light juice seemingly out of nowhere. I don't believe that for a second. They were given this stuff by somebody with advanced knowledge. So now, little frat boys and little fucking, oh, I want a trip, man. People who view psychedelic drugs as recreational instead of what they are, which are tools for your own enlightenment. If you don't use them for tools of your own enlightenment, you just are a fucking tool. And I could see this dude's fucking face right here. Goddamn, there he is, too. And the dude clapping like at his picture. Yeah, I'll clap too. Tool of the fucking year, buddy. That's you. Oh, I can just see this guy. Oh, this is classic fucking frat guy. But yeah, he fucking graduated college and decided he was going to knock the DMT off his bucket list. See, the DMT and the ayahuasca are two different things. The ayahuasca ceremony is not to be fucked with. Because it is a serious spiritual undertaking that essentially takes your physical body and your non-material body, your spirit body, and separates them in situ so that you can experience this DMT end of it. Whereas like a normal DMT trip, you kind of go into a trance, you go into your mind, you're maybe just laying there, you maybe probably look like you're asleep or something. The ayahuasca thing, totally different experience. This is convulsions, this is throwing up, this is purging things from your body. This is a violent, because the stuff that you're putting in your body is basically like poison, So your body's reacting as if it's being poisoned when you drink ayahuasca. That's the way it is. But it serves a purpose, and it's supposed to be you purging and then bringing back with you things from the spirit realm during this ceremony. But again, little white frat boys think, I'm gonna do DMT. I'm gonna go down there to Peru and drink me some ayahuasca. And they get fucked up. There's a lot of stories. And it looks like we had another one here. A young backpacker has died in Peru after taking hallucinogens in an ancient Amazonian cleansing ceremony. That's Darwinism right there. Weed them out. 24-year-old Matthew Dawson Clark consumed ayahuasca, a hallucinogenic drink made from vines, as part of a 7-day retreat to foster a spiritual awakening. From Auckland in New Zealand's north, Mr. Dawson Clark died on September 3rd after taking part in the centuries-old ritual. In rituals using ayahuasca, also known as yage, which contains DMT, an experienced shaman guides those partaking through the psychedelic experience, which lasts 6 to 10 hours. See, now that's what's fucked up about it. 6 to 10 hours? No, dude. You're not getting... See, I've always wondered about this ayahuasca ceremony. It's always made me think that, because I've heard people, I've known people who've done it and gone down there and done it. And they always come back, oh yeah, I was like, how long was it? Oh, I don't know, man, fucking 10, 11 hours. What? Wait, what? DMT don't last no fucking 10, 11 hours. Yeah, man, it does, I'm telling you. No, I don't think so. I think you're wrong about that, dude. No, you're wrong, man. It lasts, for hours. I'm like, well, DMT's not supposed to last that long. If you're doing ayahuasca and that shit's lasting fucking 6 to 10 hours, somebody's putting something else in there besides DMT. Somebody's got the little eyedropper out, dropping some fucking dun 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 dun, dropping some motherfucking white rabbit in there or something. 6 to 10 hours. You gotta be fucking shit. Now that's an acid trip, dude. I'm sorry. Anything that lasts longer than 4 hours is an acid trip. DMT only lasts like 15 minutes. But somehow this IOC, that there's something going on here. And I think this is what's fucking people over. Because they're reading Strassman's book and hearing 15 minutes, trip that makes it seem like you're gone for years and years and years, only to go to fucking Peru and drink this shitty, god-awful tasting brew that these fucking dudes in completely unsanitary conditions brew up for you, and then you puke your guts out and feel like you're going to die, and see demons and spirits for 6 to 10 hours. Why don't you save yourself the plane fare? Get yourself, some glow sticks, some incense, the first 4 Black Sabbath albums, and some black lights, and go fucking hide in the closet with 4 hits of, some top shelf acid, and, call me in the morning. Save yourself a plane trip, save yourself the throw up. I've always wondered about that. Now I'm convinced. I think they're mixing something else in that motherfucking ayahuasca thing, because everybody always talks about it because it, it has the DMT alkalis in it or whatnot, but what else are they fucking putting in that shit? Anyway, yeah, he went down there, he did it, couldn't handle the shit, he's dead. And the moral of the story is, eat acid and hide in the closet, late kids. Don't graduate college and go to Peru to do the ayahuasca. It's not a smart career move. All right, folks, we're going to leave it there. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We'll be back. We're here tomorrow for the September 23rd End of the World edition. Hey, the end of the world's coming tomorrow. Fuck it. Let's party. I have a feeling we'll still be here next week and the week after that, and a month from now and 6 months from now. But I do want to say this. I want all of the people who have been making all these claims about September 23rd, the end of the world. I hope that there are many of you out there keeping track of their names and people make these claims, because I want these people run out on a fucking rail. I want their careers ended when this shit doesn't happen, like it ain't gonna. Because it's just not right to the rest of us who never resort to this kind of this fear-mongering prediction bullshit to have to just have these people be able to continue going on and lying to people and fear-mongering crap and never be held accountable for it. I'm sick of it. We're going to leave it there. TheGlobalReality.com is our website. Folks, we've got to reach at least minimum 900 of our operating cost goal, if not the whole thing. We'd like to reach the whole thing. Again, please, I implore you to support us. We need your support now. Please help us. Let's kick some ass. Let's do this again for another 8 years or more. I don't know. Let's keep it going. I'm working my ass off, but I need your help because I can't do this without you. My name is Josh Reeves, and I love each and every one of you. We'll see you next time. Take care.